G'day, I'm Newson, Naturopath, Nutritionist and Herbalist, and welcome to the first in a series of videos all about digestion. So today we're going to look at the digestive system as a whole and what happens after we put food in here before it poops out there. So this whole thing that goes on in between. It's really important not only to keep us healthy but to prevent us from disease, premature aging, immunological problems, neurological problems, joint problems, an unhealthy skin or an unhealthy glow to the skin. So quite important, pretty much every single cell in the body relies on digestion because it's where every single cell in the body gets all of its nutrients to thrive. So if you've got poor digestion or a poor diet, which will then cause poor digestion, every single cell in the body is going to suffer. And if that happens, you're going to be unhealthy. And for one person it could be obesity, another person could be cancer, another person could be dementia, another person could be type 1 diabetes, another person can be rheumatoid arthritis. It affects everyone differently. So it's really important to keep digestion healthy. So most people don't understand it, so it's what goes on there. So I thought in this video today we'll just basically explain what happens after we eat food. So when we put good food, I'm talking good food here, and good, what I mean by good food, I mean fruits and vegetables and nuts and seeds and legumes and pulses and beans, whole grains, which is brown rice, not white rice, buckwheat millet, quinoa, grass-fed or organic meats, or grass-fed and organic meats, wild-caught seafood. I'm not talking about any stuff from the grain lot or where they just feed the seafood pellets. Pretty much no pellets in the wild. No pellets floating around. Oh, prawn goes or a shrimp goes, oh, there's a pellet, I might eat that. No. Fish goes, oh, pellet, I'll eat that. They do in your fish tank. Anyway, I'm rambling. So, so basically, when you put food in your mouth, these things here, these little chompers, teeth, they start the process of breaking the food down. And when you start to chew, you produce saliva, and saliva does a couple of things. It contains a few digestive enzymes, in particular amylase, and amylase starts the process of breaking the foods down in the mouth. So it coats them and they start to dissolve the bonds that keep the food together. The saliva also tells the stomach to start producing the digestive juices, so the hydrochloric acid, the gastrin, the pepsin. It tells the stomach to produce those, and that then gets the stomach ready to break the food down even further. So think of it this way: you've got a big building that needs to be wrecked or broken down, demolished, and you get one of those cranes with a big wrecking ball, and it comes along, goes bang, and it breaks that wall down to the big solid wall down to big chunks of brick. That's what chewing the food and the stomach acid do to the food. It breaks it down, it starts to denature it. So it's really important to chew your food. Now, I remember when we were kids, my grandparents used to say, "You're not pigs at a trough, slow down and chew your food." But what they didn't realise is that I had 4 brothers, and all of us boys were hungry, and we wanted to eat. So it was, and if we didn't do that, one of my other brothers, he'd get my share. If I was going, Chris or Paul or Damien or Tim, they'd go, whoop, chicken drumstick, I'll eat that one. And I'm going, starving, where's my food? So, I understand why we had to eat fast, but it wasn't the right thing to do. But, yes, so chew your food. Now I'm older and wiser, chew your food. I digress, I'm sorry. When after we've chewed the food and it's broken down in the stomach, the big chunks of brick go to the small intestine, and the pancreas secretes in a really alkaline fluid digestive enzymes. And the reason why the fluid is alkaline is because the acid is coming from the stomach, and that alkalinity, that bicarbonate which comes through with the digestive enzymes, neutralises that acid, because if it didn't, you'd get ulcers, duodenal ulcer, up in the duodenum, the top part of the small intestine. So, those digestive enzymes then break those big chunks of brick down to grains of sand. and they break them down to grains of sand, and those grains of sand are then easily absorbed through the villi, and then absorbed straight into the bloodstream and go straight to the liver. From where it is in the liver goes, okay, folate, you're not that good to me, I can't utilise you, I will convert you to method tetrahydrofolate. And it does that for all of the vitamins, it turns them into their active forms, and it also converts the essential amino acids into non-essential amino acids. So phenylalanine, it converts down to tyrosine. And so then that goes down and does the whole dopamine and noradrenaline, adrenaline pathways. Pardon me. So from there, from the small intestine, once all the nutrients have been absorbed, what is left is basically just waste and fibres. So the fibres are soluble fibres, insoluble fibres, and prebiotic fibres. They go into the colon. The prebiotic fibres are munched on or chewed up by a whole heap of bacteria, in particular commensal bacteria, and those bacteria then poop. And they poop out short-chain fatty acids, in particular propionate, butyrate and aceturate. And butyrate's the main one. And then those short-chain fatty acids then become fuel for all of the other bacteria that live in, all the other good bacteria that live in the gut. And there's about 2 kilos of that bacteria, and that bacteria makes up the immune system and the microbiome. So 70% of the immune system lives in the gut, and that immune system is made up by that bacteria. And that bacteria only eat fibre or prebiotic fibre. So prebiotic fibres are found in fruits and vegetables, and legumes and pulses and beans. So vegetable type food, natural foods, are not found in animal-based foods. The short-chain fatty acids also provide fuel or food for the colonocytes. Now they're the cells that line the colon, and so the colon gets 80% of its fuel, its food, from these short-chain fatty acids. If it doesn't, because you're eating a diet high in white flour products and sugar and not much fibre there, those colonocytes wither and die, or they do die, because every 3 days there's a new. If you've got one colonocyte and it's nice and healthy, it only has a 3-day life cycle, or thereabouts, 3 to 5 day life cycle. It dies. But it doesn't die and leave a hole. It produces another one. But if that colonocyte is not getting the right fuel, it's not going to produce an exact copy of itself. And over a period of time, that will cause a mutation, and that then leads to colon cancer. The number one preventative for colon cancer is fibre. The number one cancer in pretty much the Western world is colon cancer. It ain't rocket science. Fibre diminishes the chance, reduces the risk of cancer, and a whole heap of other things too. Keeps the gut healthy, reduces gut inflammation, removes toxins. So you get your soluble fibre and your insoluble fibre. Your soluble fibre is broken down into like a gel type substance, and that then binds to your excess cholesterol that the body's trying to get rid of, estrogens that the body's trying to get rid of, and other substances, and takes them out in the poo. If it doesn't get rid of estrogen, if there's not enough soluble fibre there, that estrogen will build up and it get reabsorbed. That leads to estrogen dominance, or can lead to estrogen dominance. Estrogen dominance is a leading cause of breast cancer. Estrogen dominant breast cancer. So estrogen receptor positive breast cancer, I should say. It also leads to elevated cholesterol if you're reabsorbing the cholesterol. So fibre, important. The insoluble fibre acts like a broom. It just like pushes down, gets rid of all the toxins and clears out all the colon, and it bulks up the stool. So the liver. So we know what the colon does. We get that there. Oh no, we don't. I forgot. I digress. What's going on to the liver? But in the colon, all of those beneficial bacteria, they produce vitamins. They produce vitamin B12, folate, B1, B6, vitamin K2, biotin, choline. There's others, but I can't remember them all. So not only do you get vitamins from food, but it's bacteria in your gut produce vitamins that keep us healthy. So if that bacteria is not strong and robust, and it's not got the fuel that it needs, or the food that it needs to produce fibre, produce the, and I start that, if it hasn't got the food to produce the short chain fatty acids, those bacteria struggle, you don't get enough vitamin intake and you become deficient. Then you've got to rely on synthetic stuff. So, get your gut right. Now I'll go back to the liver. The liver also produces bile. When you have a fatty food, some people feel, I'm a bit queasy, I'm a bit nauseous, I feel bloated after eating a fatty food. That's because there's not enough bile. So the liver produces the bile, it stores it in the gallbladder. When you have fatty food, there's a trigger to tell the gallbladder to secrete the bile into the small intestine. Now that bile produces that big layer of fat. It breaks it down to microscopic particles which are then absorbed through those villi and then transported in the blood as blood lipids. So the different types of oils are important and the bile is important. Now if your liver's not happy, it won't produce the bile as well as it should. If the gallbladder's a bit sluggish or a bit full of sludge or gallstones, you're not going to produce the bile you should. If the gall duct is blocked, you're not going to produce the bile, or you're not going to release the bile that should be released, and so you're going to always have problems with fatty food, which means that you reduce your intake of fat. Now, fat is important. Every single cell in your body, and there's trillions of them, aligned with a lipid layer made up of fat. So there's and there's good fats and there's bad fats, but we're just talking about fat in general. So if your cells don't have that lipid layer, they become leaky, and they're then more prone to toxins, free radical damage, which is like rusting of your cells. And then that depletes your energy, that causes cellular mutations. So fat is quite important, and this thing that sits here called the brain, it's predominantly fat. It's the fattiest organ in the body, so it needs fat. It's got 25% cholesterol too, so it needs fat to keep it fluid, to keep everything working. So don't be scared of fat. But what I'm saying is the liver is very important to produce the bile to break the fat down so it can be absorbed. The pancreas, I mentioned the pancreas. The pancreas is also important to produce insulin. So when you have a high sugar meal, the blood glucose levels rise. Elevated blood glucose leads to diabetes, blindness, diabetic retinopathy, kidney disease, kidney deterioration, gangrene, and it's the number one food that cancer eats. So the insulin grabs hold of the glucose molecule and lowers its level in the blood. I'm just thinking, have I missed any of the digestive organs? I may have, but we will cover them in future, or digestive processes. We will cover them in future discussions about digestive problems. Oh, one thing I didn't mention, I mentioned that 70% of the immune system lives here in the gut, but 90% of your body's stored or manufactured serotonin is in cells called enterochromaffin cells. Now, those enterochromaffin cells line the whole intestinal tract and the respiratory tract. 90% is in the gut. So if you've got poor digestion, which leads to poor gut function and damaged layer of the gut, the lining of the gut, you don't produce serotonin or secrete serotonin effectively. If you don't do that, serotonin is your happy, feel-good brain chemical. Depression, anxiety, extreme anger, teariness, insomnia, because serotonin is converted to melatonin. So carbohydrate cravings, so weight gain. The gut also has more receptors in the neurotransmitter receptors in the gut than there are in the brain. So GABA, which is your calming, relaxing brain chemical, dopamine, your focus, your learning, your concentration, acetylcholine, which is the major brain chemical, and that controls the movement of the poo through the digestive system. And talking about that, basically how that happens once it gets into it's called peristalsis. So your intestinal tract has got muscles. They look like that. So your colon, for example. And one squeezes, pushes the feces down, and the next one squeezes, pushes it down, and so on and so on. That's all controlled by acetylcholine. GABA actually secretes, it causes the secretion of your digestive enzymes. So if you're low on GABA, you're not secreting digestive enzymes effectively. And we will discuss that in future videos. So the gut is so important for mental health, it's so important for immunological health. If you've got damage to the gut wall, you also damage the gut brain. So there's a condition called Leaky Gut Syndrome, which we will discuss, but it is also has a direct correlation with leaky brain syndrome. So the blood-brain barrier becomes more porous, which allows more toxins or chemicals or substances that shouldn't cross the blood-brain barrier to get in there, which then further deteriorates the brain. So proper digestion, good digestion, is paramount for our long-term health. So hopefully with this video you've enjoyed it, and you've enjoyed it enough to give us the thumbs up, and you've subscribed to our YouTube channel so you'll be notified next time that we release a video. And look, please share it on social media. Let people know all about it. Until next time, this is Greg, and you have a fantastic day.